And why we're all called here this evening is because I know, if you're like me, we haven't seen anything in the paper, or virtually not any word from the Veterans Administration as to the regards of what is progressing with Fort Howard. However, we have one press release back on July 31st of 2013, which was released from the Baltimore office, and what it stated at that time, it was in the Sun papers also, that they were moving to, within the next 60 days from July 31st, they were moving to close the EUL and issue a final authorization for said EUL to pursue the program for the Fort Howard development at Fort Howard. Now, unless you really caught it in the paper, they only put out one notice, and that was it. We understand now through intel and our inlines through Congress and everything else that they're moving to try to close, or well, I guess finalize this enhanced use lease for the development of Fort Howard by the end of the year. That could be on or off, but that's the best word we can get. And still to this day, very limited direct response from the VA proper. So with that said, I'd like to open up to Mr. Alfred Classy to say a few words. He's our director for Save Fort Howard, our commander-in-chief, so to speak.
You know, you're kind of special here tonight, special in this sense. I would venture a guess that there's not another citizens meeting in the state of Maryland second to the one that you're participating in. Cancellations all over the place. If somebody get a day off today, they'll cancel it. If the schools don't want to teach today, they cancel. Everything's happening. But the people those of us that care enough about something in our community, we know the world is filled with problems, but we have to take care of who we are, where we are, under the Constitution of the United States of America, and each and every one of us is sitting here supporting the veterans that have served before us. How many veterans are here tonight? That's great. We need your help and support now more than any other time about what's happening in our community. Since 2007, going back many years ago and prior to, this was the groundbreaking ceremonies of the promise that was made by the United States of America through the Veterans Administration to we the veterans and our families. My wife is blind. She's 90. Very good. Why did you hook this up? Looks good. Did you hear what I was saying without this? Did you really? Good. But in any event, my wife was 91 years of age, going back to 2007, however old she was at that time. This is my story. There's thousands of them out there again. We from World War II in Korea. We were promised that this would be second to none in the United States of America at Fort Howard. And at this gathering was all the elected officials of our state from the top to the bottom. This is not a political issue. We don't mention names as such. We're saying government is responsible, not the individual that serves as whatever his capacity, but the government has failed us in this respect. These veterans, they said that 500 of them signed up. I don't know how many of them popped their money down, but money isn't the important thing. They took $750 from me and my wife, and to this day, we haven't received our money as promised. When it failed, when the person that was in charge, selected by our government, our elected officials, and the Veterans Administration, left the scene, and he took our money along with him. The government says, that's not our responsibility, that's the responsibility of the builder. We say, no, no. You encouraged us to participate, and now you've left us. They sent me a check for my return, $750. I took it to the bank. What do you think happened to my $750?
It bounced.
They sent a return. Not enough funds. The government selected these people to act in our behalf. Efficiency personified, inefficiency personified, completely by every elected officials that attended this meeting. And if you ever want to know, they can be identified. But we don't want to do that because then it becomes a political issue. We're not there. But in any event, this is your meeting. We started many, many years ago to get everyone interested. And I'm going to close with saying this so that our chairman from this area, your neighbor, is going to bring you up to date. And you're going to have the opportunity to share your feelings. Because the government is saying there's a lot of veterans that are for this. And my guess there are. But here's what they're not. They're not people that have worked hard to preserve our community. They're not people that worked at Bethlehem Steel Company or General Motors or people like us. Because the peoples, if they're successful in stealing this property away from us or and giving it away, because they have a lease, so they say, the Veterans Administration, but it isn't signed yet. How can you have a lease if it isn't signed yet? Doesn't make any sense, and it sounds like double talk. But we have tried every way that we know how, through all the intellect that we could muster, and we have a lot of people that are following this incident to save Fort Howard, for veterans exclusively. And if the Veterans Administration is correct by saying there's lots of veterans that want to see that happen, then why not exclusively set it up and let the veterans live there? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
If they say that there's enough veterans to live at that institution, they're saying this, wouldn't it be wise for them to go ahead and build it and for the veterans and come into the community as welcome neighbors? Can you imagine anyone coming into the Edgemere area feeling unwelcome, as most of you tonight will surely indicate? Because everyone that we've talked with, whether it be from the recreation in Baltimore County, many of our elected officials, many of our candidates, and people by the throngs say it should be, if they're going to build it, it should be exclusively for veterans. If you think that's a good idea, would you raise your hands, or wouldn't you not? How many of you think it's a good idea just to build it so they can give it away to a builder, and then a builder can come in here under the guise of a lease and make millions of dollars? And guess what, Mr. President? I'm going to end by saying this. If we fail in our mission, here's what will happen. And this is just a premonition or a thought or a continuity. If we leave Fort Howard and they build on that shoreline and take it away from veterans that deserve to live there, you can rest assured in the next 20 years that you will lose North Point Park. It was given to Baltimore County many years ago. And Baltimore County is one good county. We live in a beautiful, good county. But we can only take care of so much community development along the North Point Park. And if you don't believe that, go down and take a look at the deterioration of our park at North Point Park. Take a look at it. It isn't because our county can't or won't do it. It's just that we can't afford to do it at this time. But there's ideas that are abound, and I'm suggesting this tonight, that if Fort Howard falls to the businesses and the money makers, 20 years from now, that park will fall also. Mr. Chairman, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and I hope that you're brave enough to share your thoughts also. But keep in mind, this is the community's meeting, and if you're here for information, that's fine. And I'm sure the chairman will give you the opportunity to say whatever you need to say. But there's one thing for sure we want you to remember. We have put our effort forth to save Fort Howard for veterans. Now, there's many, many other things that we can talk about and share. But I'm going to give you the opportunity, and the president and the community that will suffer in addition to the building of a commercial development at Fort Howard without the permission or consent of the people who live here. And then I'd say they would be an unwelcome neighbor. And who would want to do that? Who knows? Thank you so much.